After 14 years of living in Australia, you made the decision to leave everything behind and start again. Tell us about what led you to making that decision.
So what led me to making that decision was a long-term relationship that I'd been in for 6 years had basically come to an end. And people typically go two ways, like men specifically. They can either destroy themselves and become overweight, become depressed, and go down that path, or they can rebuild themselves. Basically start an entire new book, entire new chapter, and turn that new page. I went for the latter. So basically for me, that relationship came to an end. And I think like months prior, I had a conversation with one of my close friends, Jacob, about how good South America was, how good Colombia was, and how if I was single, basically, of how I'd actually come over. Well, now I was single and I had no excuses, but still I wasn't set on actually going to South America. I was more so set on just leaving Australia. So what I ended up doing was I sold all of my stuff. Like I sold my stand-up desk, I sold my computer, I sold my clothing, and then basically I had all this money. The first thing I purchased was a laptop because I knew, well, wherever I am in the world, first things I'm going to need is I need to be able to make money, so I need a laptop. And then what I did after that was I had money left over for a ticket. I just didn't know where I was going to go. Now I was in a Telegram group chat at the time, and basically I put into the Telegram group chat being like, oh, who's keen on Koh Samui? And I actually have a YouTube video listed on my page going into detail about this, but I went, who's keen on going to Koh Samui? My best friend Jacob responded back and he was like, oh, no, don't go there, come here. Argentina. I'm like, where the fuck's Argentina? I look at my phone, pull up the maps, I'm like, shit, this is like 20 hours. This is like on the other side of the earth. I'm like, and I hesitated a bit because I was like, they don't speak English, it's far away, I only know one person. I wanted to do it, but I didn't want to do it. Over a few days of sort of going back and forth of whether I should go, whether I shouldn't go, I just booked the tickets. I booked the tickets, and after I booked those tickets, I had barely any money. I think I had about $500, $600 in my bank account. Went over to Argentina, and at this point in time, mind you, relationship had just ended. I had just started my high-tech sales career as well, so there's a lot of change happening in my life. And now I'm on my way over to Argentina. I didn't even have my own place. I was sleeping on my mate's couch for the first month that I actually arrived there, and that's documented on my YouTube when I was making videos. That's also documented on my Twitter, which you're about to go check out as well. So basically, I arrived there, sleeping on my mate's couch. Wasn't not the biggest apartment either, but again, I wasn't having to pay for there. We didn't have to pay for the food at the time. My first month, 6 weeks into high ticket sales, I made $0. Some people get to the money a lot quicker than me. Some people give up, but for me, 6 weeks in, not making any money, I'm thinking damn, is this for me? Did I make the wrong decision? Coming over here and sort of taking that risk, because I haven't made any money yet. Now, one of my good friends, Connor Healy, if you're in the info space and the sales space, you'll know who he is. He referred me to someone that he knew. And if you know who Dan Henry is, that's basically who I got referred to. He was looking for a new high ticket sales rep. So I'd gone from basically making no money for the first 6 weeks. Now I'd landed a fairly good offer. And then within the space of 7 days, I'd made $7,200 in commission. $6,000 in commission from the new offer that I just landed. And then $1,200 in commission from a $12,000 PIF from that old offer that I was on my way out on leaving. So basically, gone from taking a massive risk, being unsure, having a lot of uncertainty, to now I'm like, okay, that risk is starting to pay off for me now. So I was sleeping on my friend's couch and I was like, okay, got to stop sleeping on the couch, got to get my own place. So got my own place after that. And then from after there, months that came, got in the best shape I ever got in, started making really good money. On the bottom end, $10,000 a month for me. And yeah, it all just started with basically that relationship coming to an end, and then me betting on myself and pretty much rebuilding from the ground up.
Before you started making money online, what was the biggest hurdle that you had to overcome so you could make that change?
The biggest hurdle I had to overcome was learning how to channel my addictive personality into something that was productive for me, not something that destroyed me. Because when I was 18 years old, I loved clubbing, I loved going out, And at the time I was working in door-to-door sales, and I had just started to make like what I considered was good money, which is like $3,000, $4,000 a month. In the grand scheme of things, it's not really a lot, but at that point in time, I felt that it was a lot. Now, once I started making that money, what does an 18-year-old that enjoys clubbing do? Start splurging in the clubs, spending a lot of it on alcohol. And basically, that's what I ended up doing for a couple of months once I started making this good money. I got caught away with it, and it basically got to a point where, my job was at risk, and I actually ended up losing that job because I stopped prioritizing what had gotten me to that point, which was, grinding, working, and now I was prioritizing partying. So basically, that job came to an end, and now I still enjoyed going out, still had this addictive personality, but I didn't have the funds to fund like how I was rolling when I was going out in the clubbing scene. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, don't really have too much money, but I still enjoy going out. Like, what's the alternative? And basically what I ended up getting into was I started taking drugs. Because in my mind, this is literally my logic at that point in time. It's so stupid thinking back to it. Was, okay, like this is $25, $50. It's the cheaper alternative instead of me spending $500, $600 on alcohol on the night out. Like, that was my logic at that point in time. And it's so stupid thinking back to it. And that was basically the beginning of the end for me, because it compounded over years and years and years, like 3 years in the clubbing scene, like hosting, promoting, going out Thursdays to Sundays. And what started off as like a social thing basically compounded into a thing where when the lockdown hit, I had basically what you could consider commercial amounts, like an ounce. And most people would be picking up these types of amounts to, sell them. But I was basically, my addiction had gotten so bad to a point where I was using these amounts for myself. And it had gone from something that was social, doing it in a social setting, doing it with friends. And now I'm sitting at home on a Tuesday playing video games by myself, doing drugs, because the addiction had gotten to that point. Now, my addiction had gotten so bad to a point where in the space of a week throughout that lockdown period, I overdosed twice. And I was literally just playing video games, sitting alone. And my ex-girlfriend, I lived with her at the time. And after it happened the second time, she carried me to the bedroom after I'd overdosed and basically said to me, like, Shay, you can't keep doing this. Like, we're not going to stay together. You're destroying yourself. You're going to end up dead. Basically, it just gave me those hard-hitting truths that I needed to hear, which led me down the path of thinking, no, I need to change. Like, this isn't sustainable. And in that point in time, after that hard-hitting conversation, I basically took all the drugs that I had and I gave them to her. And that was me, like, sort of taking that first step of being like, okay, it's time for a change. Now, I hadn't been sober in about 3 years of me going clubbing, like Thursdays or Sundays, going out all the time, and getting fucked up. Now, after I gave all that stuff to my ex, basically this is the first time in like 3 years that I had been sober. So after a week of being sober, now I could see clearly. Like, my mind wasn't altered. Because the thing is like, when you're taking a lot of substances, you're not yourself. You can try to say like, oh yeah, I am myself, but you're really not yourself. So after about a week of being sober, I was myself, and now I could see clearly. And I just held up the mirror and I looked in the mirror and I'm like, dude, you're a fucking loser. You're 21 years old, going nowhere with your life. You're taking drugs. You're sitting at home on a Tuesday, fucking taking drugs. Like, what the fuck are you doing with your life? And basically, just because I was clear of mind, now I could see clearly of where I was fucking up, the changes that I needed to make. And now I had like this burning desire, this burning fire under my ass that something needed to shift. And now I wanted to channel what was considered a negative, like my addictive personality, into something that would build me up instead of something that would destroy me.
Once you decided enough was enough and you were ready to make that change, how did that specifically transition into making an income online?
So I was ready for a change. I know I wanted to make that change. I just didn't know what that change was or how I was going to make that change. And importantly enough, like, I didn't have the money to make that change. So I thought like, okay, if I'm going to be doing something different, I'm going to need money to be able to make this change. Now, within a week of me having this realization that like, I'm a loser, I need to make this change, I had a bunch of emails from the government. And basically what the government was saying was like, you have a bunch of uncollected tax returns, because from 14 to 17 years old, I worked at KFC and it was on a casual timeline. So I had a bunch of tax that was basically uncollected. So it came out to like $8,000 across 3 years. And it come at the perfect time. Because thinking back on it, like, if I had gotten that money when when I was still caught up with, bad habits, being an addict, that kind of thing, it would have destroyed me. Would have made things like that much more worse. But now I got in them at a time where I was ready for a change. So it come at like the perfect time. So I now had $8,000. And within a few days of me getting that money, I started getting these ads from a guy named Ty Lopez. If you're in the online space, you know who this guy is, Lamborghini guy in the garage. And I started getting his ads. It was a Black Friday deal. Basically, all of his courses that are typically charged thousands of dollars for, you can now get in the bundle. I think it was like $50 or $60. Now, I never really invested into online courses, and I was skeptical. Even me trying to spend $60, I was skeptical. Like up until this point, I've spent tens of thousands of dollars on single mentors, and I was hesitating over the fact like, damn, this is $60. That's a lot of money. That was the first thing that I ended up buying, was those online courses or online mentorships. Now, that information inside of that course, it wasn't life-changing, but that was what got me in the game. So I'm still thankful for it, because then the people that I saw inside that program led me to purchasing another program, and those programs were actually really good. The issue that I faced when making that transition, though, was I would get dopamine out of like just sitting down, like watching through the information and just completing the courses in terms of watch time, but not actioning on it and not implementing any of the stuff. And this is the theme for a couple of months, where I would watch through the course and not action anything. Watch the course and not action anything. And after a couple of months of doing this in repeat, it got to a point where I'd started to run out of money. That $8,000 had now turned into a couple $100s, and I actually threw in the towel. Like, I threw in the towel because I hadn't made any money, I hadn't actioned on anything. And if you live in Australia, you know this store. I got a job at Caliber, or like a trial, basically. And what it is, hey, we're going to give you an 8-hour shift. If you do well, we're going to give you the job. So I had that 8-hour shift. They paid me for those 8 hours. A couple of days later, the chick who's doing the hiring reaches out to me, says, Shay, thank you for your time. We're going to pay you on this date, but you haven't gotten the role, basically. Now, that's also another pivotal moment for me, because thinking back to it, had she given me the job, would I be here today? I probably would have gotten comfortable. I probably would have never actually started making money online, because I would have had that job, had this comfort, had that weekly, bi-weekly, monthly pay coming in. So I didn't end up getting the job, and basically I was in the corner now. My back was against the wall, and I needed to start actioning on the information. Instead of just getting the dopamine from watching through the course, now it's time to take action. So I started actioning on the information. Within 2 weeks, I signed 3 trial clients. Basically, the approach was, sign people up on a free trial, and if I do a good job, you start to pay me. One of those 3 trial clients turned into a paying client, and they paid me $1,500 a month for 3 months. And this was also another light bulb moment for me, because this was what broke my limiting beliefs of, okay, not only can other people do it, but it's possible for me. Because again, sometimes you can see everyone around you winning, but when you haven't experienced that first dollar yourself, it's different. So once I actually saw that, my self-belief skyrocketed through the roof that I could actually do that. And then in months to come, I hired a mentor, a one-on-one mentor. And then in the next 6 months, I scaled up to $20,000 a month. And yeah, that was my journey into making money online. It all started with the Ty Lopez course, which led me to another course, to a point where, signed my first client and scaled from there.
After going through all of that, what is life like now?
Life's exactly how I designed it. Right now, I'm surrounded by a group of boys, like-minded individuals, similar interests in terms of like fitness, similar personalities. And what I always wanted out of an online business or an online vehicle that would allow me to make money is not just to do it alone and make some money by myself, but I wanted to be able to bring a group of boys with me, or do it with a group of boys. So life right now is exactly as I designed, because I spoke about this on a video I made on Instagram. What I always wanted as like a kid was to be able to go to a restaurant and basically order everything that I wanted without having to look twice at the menu, and without having to be like, oh, do I have the money to be able to do this? Now, I've been in the position for over the last year where I can do that. And yeah, life right now is exactly as I designed. Fitness is going well, health is good, I have a good girl, surrounded by good boys. What more can you ask for?
mentioned that you didn't have that growing up as much, and so that's why you have so much appreciation for it now. Tell us about like the origin of that, and why do you feel like that's so important to you now? Where did that start off with?
What it started off with was, going to the grocery store, or going clothing shopping, or just going shopping in general with my mum, and me grabbing something, and then her just know, you know what, Shay, we can't afford it. We can't afford it. So anytime I wanted to go grab something, we can't afford it. And basically what that created was me wanting a lot of these things, but me not being able to get it. So that's where it originated, and what it transformed into is like, I never want to be in a position as a full-grown man where I can't grab something because I can't afford it. I want to be able to grab it just off of principle alone. And that's why, freedom for me was, like I said, going to the restaurant, being able to order whatever I wanted. And not just for me as well, being able to do that if I go with my family, or being able to do that if I go with my boys. So that's where it originated.
You've always preached documentation so much. You made your little brother document it, even though he didn't want it to, but that came from you setting the example first. Talk to us about why you documented things, but then more importantly, the impact that it's had on other people's lives as well.
So I heard some good advice from a guy named Charlie Morgan, talking about how powerful it was to document your journey, and basically how selfish it would be if you weren't to do that, simply because you're scared to put yourself out there. And he talked about the impacts that it had on his personal life, and I was like, it can't be that good. So when I was running my marketing agency, I started posting 3 videos a week consistently, and I'd have like the Sundays planned out where I'd do 3 videos a week. And then firsthand, like, I saw the impact on a micro scale that it could have in other people's journey. People being like, hey bro, I was doing this and now I'm in this position. I was doing this, now I'm in this position, all thanks to your videos. And what I would have wished, if I could go back and reset the timer, was that I didn't start documenting like a few years into the journey, but that I had started documenting from day dot. Because I think people have this misconception that you already need to be at the tip top, then you start grading. That's the point where you become captivating and people want to watch your content. In reality, what people want to follow is the journey from coming from down here all the way to up here. So the reason why I was so convicted on like telling my brother, you need to do content, you need to do content, you need to do content, is because of a mistake that I had made. The mistake that I had made of not documenting from the start and documenting a couple years already into the journey.
And so knowing that that's such an important thing with documentation, not only after you starting to then document later on in life, how has that impacted other boys' lives beyond that?
So first life that comes to mind is my little brother, Jackson. I don't think that he would be curious about this space or even be in this space if I didn't begin documenting, because the conversation that led to my brother getting into this space was an Instagram DM. Based on me going back and forth and like him asking me some questions, being genuinely curious, and me answering them. Now, I don't think he would have been curious in the first place if I didn't start to document my journey, because how he started to ask these questions was off the back of some videos that I actually posted. So in terms of how it's impacted, 1, it got Jackson in the game. 2, it got other people in the game, because me getting Jackson into the game also got his best friend Chris into it as well, because he started documenting. So I got my little brother into it, but that also had a ripple effect in terms of him getting multiple people into it. And another guy that's here with us as well in our circle, Sione, me posting content also got him into it. Like if I never posted the content, there would be multiple people who would have never taken that step simply because they didn't see that video, because they didn't see that post. And to put this into context, all those boys' names that I mentioned, on the low end are all clearing over $10,000 a month, which they were not clearing in their 9-to-5s before that.
Seeing the lives that they live, knowing that you were an important stepping stone into facilitating that change and providing them with that vehicle, what have you seen them go on to grow, and how's it made you feel knowing that you were the curator and the stepping stone for them?
I see them living lives of abundance, like doing what they want when they want. Like literally saw a couple of these boys go off to Europe for a month on a trip and then come back, being able to go to whatever restaurants they want, like in the afternoon going to play pool, in the afternoon going to hit the sauna. So I'm seeing them living lives of abundance, and they're working on their own time clock, which, they definitely wouldn't be getting in the previous lives that were, and how it makes me feel. It makes me feel proud. You know, you ask the question like, what's your proudest achievement? Is it like the amount of money that you made, or is it the fact that you're able to travel the world? And my proudest achievement was the impact and the influence I was able to have on my little brother Jackson, because without me documenting my journey, I don't think that he would have taken that step. So the proudest thing that I'm real big on is, me being able to influence my little brother's journey simply by posting a couple of videos.
Through all of the trials, tribulations, hardships, challenges, getting to where you are now, what would your advice be to your younger self, little Shay?
No matter how bad your situation is right now, just know there's a way out. No matter how deep you are into it, just know that there's another path, and you don't necessarily need to walk the traditional path that is shoved down your throat by your parents, by society, by everyone else other than you. Just know that there is a way, and that those challenges, those hardships, those sacrifices, that if you go down that path, it'll all be worth it.